How can a company raise prices without raising its prices? Let us count the ways. Hi there, everyone. It's Jeff, and this is Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. JR is the producer, and he has uploaded the full lesson to plainenglish.com/455. Prices are front and center once again, and on today's lesson, we'll talk about the ways companies can pass along increases in cost without raising the prices of their products. As we all pay closer attention to the prices of the things we buy, we should keep these hidden price increases in mind. In the second half of today's audio lesson, we'll review the English expression apples to apples. And in the video lesson at plainenglish.com/455, we are going to talk about ways to compare your well-being across time periods. This is a really, really good video lesson. It's too hard to do in the audio, which is why we make it a video. Anyway, back here in the audio, we have a song of the week as well. Let's get going. Inflation refers to the increase in prices in an economy. Economists think of prices like a big, economy-wide basket of goods. In most economies, the government measures the prices of that basket of goods periodically, and the government reports on how much the prices change from period to period. By itself, inflation isn't necessarily bad. If all prices go up together, the net effect is zero. For example, if your income goes up by 5% and all your expenses go up by 5%, then you will be no worse off than you were before. Inflation stings when costs go up faster than wages. If your wages go up by 5%, but your costs go up by 7%, then your standard of living falls. Inflation also hurts people who are on fixed incomes, like pensions. Now, both paychecks and pension payments do sometimes rise, but they're often sticky. What I mean by that is they rise, but they rise more slowly than the prices at the grocery store. A grocery store or gas station can change its prices every day, but I'm guessing you only get a pay raise once or twice a year, if that. That's what's going on in much of the world right now. In the US, inflation recently hit an annualized rate of 7.9%, the highest rate of inflation in over 40 years. That means a basket of goods that cost $100 a year ago would cost $107.90 today. It's a similar story around the world. In Brazil, prices were up 10.5%. In Mexico, it was over 7%, the highest in 2 decades. In Europe, it was 5.8%. But even these numbers don't capture the whole story. When the government measures inflation, it compares prices of equivalent goods in 2 periods. But it's hard to make a true apples-to-apples comparison because companies try not to raise prices. Instead, they try other ways to make goods more expensive. So here's a list of ways companies can pass along the effects of inflation without raising prices. See how many you've noticed in your life. Number 1, and this should not be a surprise. Number 1 is package size. This is especially true at the grocery store. I'll give you a personal example. I often make a salad for lunch. The base of the salad is spinach. A container of spinach usually lasts me 3 lunch salads, 3 big handfuls of spinach. But lately, I started to notice that my 3rd salad was a little skimpy. The container of spinach looks the same as it always has. But I looked a little closer, and guess what? It's a different shape. Each container has less spinach than before. Companies know that consumers pay attention to the overall price rather than the price per unit. That makes sense. We can't all be doing math and examining labels closely on every trip. So companies prefer shrinking the package to raising the price. Number 2, a reduction in service. This is common in the hospitality industry. Let's say a hotel room cost $200 per night last year, but $220 per night this year. That's a 10% increase in cost. But the hotels might be giving you less value for your money. Here's what I mean. Many hotel chains have eliminated housekeeping service for multi-night stays. And it's not just housekeeping. Disney eliminated free shuttles at its resorts. Other hotels used to offer a hot buffet breakfast, and now they just offer a piece of fruit in a bag. So yes, the room, on average, might cost just 10% more, but the value you're getting has declined, and that's the hidden bite of inflation. It makes that cost inflation even worse. Next up, bundles. Car dealers are famous for offering you useless extra services when you buy a car. Astute car buyers say no to all of that. But now, many of those extra services aren't optional. Car dealers make you buy things like protective paint coating, mud flaps, and cargo protectors. Now here's one more way you can lose out during inflationary periods: extra fees. Peloton makes high-end exercise bikes. Last year, you could order a Peloton and the delivery team would assemble it for you. Now, if you want assembly, you need to pay $250. The headline cost might not have changed, but if you add the extra fee, the total cost has changed. So that extra fee isn't always picked up in inflation statistics. How many times have you placed an online order and had to pay required convenience fees? Companies find that it's easier to add small percentage fees than to raise prices. They often disguise it with official or innocent-sounding names. This is common with delivery apps, tickets, and restaurants. Hotels have added sustainability fees. Airlines have added COVID sanitization fees. Some restaurants are even adding a separate COVID fee to all checks for both delivery and in-person dining. One exasperated customer asked, "What's next? A dishwashing fee?" Harley-Davidson has a 119-year history of bold innovation. But their latest innovation came from the accounting department. Harley hasn't raised the price of its motorcycles, but it adds a materials fee to the bikes it sells. These can range from $850 to $1,500 per bike, and they're not optional. I used to think that materials were included in the price of a physical good, but I guess not. It looks like we're going to have to live with inflation for a while. Russia is the world's #1 exporter of gas, #2 exporter of oil, and #3 exporter of coal. Russia and Ukraine are #1 and 2 exporters of wheat. Russia and Belarus are big exporters of the materials that make fertilizer. Fertilizer makes crops productive around the world, so this is going to hit food prices. And think of all those fields that won't get planted this year due to the war. That translates into crops that won't get harvested in the fall. And supply will go down, the price will go up. When food prices goes up, it hurts everyone, but it hurts the poorest people the most because they spend a greater share of their incomes on food. A lot of people just barely make enough to feed themselves and their families, and many people, especially in Africa, will really feel the pinch. So now we can add world hunger to the list of this war's tragic consequences. Today's expression is extremely common in English. I almost can't believe I haven't selected it before. The expression is apples to apples, and it has an opposite, which is apples to oranges. We use this expression when we're making comparisons. Comparisons are most useful when you're comparing two like items. If you compare two items that are basically similar, you're comparing apples to apples. But when you try to make a comparison between two things that are fundamentally different, you're making an apples to oranges comparison, and that's generally not good. Let me give you an example. Which is a better place for vacation, Paris or the Turks and Caicos Islands? That's not really an apples to apples comparison. Which has better art? Paris. Which has better beaches? The Turks and Caicos. Which has better croissants? Paris. Which has better sunsets? Turks and Caicos. Is this comparison useful at all? No. It's an apples to oranges comparison. We're trying to compare two fundamentally unlike things. Now, if you have one day in Paris, should you visit the Louvre or the Musée d'Orsay? Now, this is an apples to apples comparison. Both are world-class museums with unforgettable masterpieces. They're not exactly the same, but it's at least a meaningful comparison. Here's another example. Which pizza do I prefer? Papa John's or Spacca Napoli? Papa John's is my favorite American chain pizza restaurant. They offer American-style pizza for a cheap price. Papa John's has 5,000 locations in 45 countries. Now, Spacca Napoli has one location in the whole world. It's on Ravenswood Avenue in Chicago, and they make Neapolitan-style personal pizzas. It's my favorite sit-down pizza restaurant. But which is better? This is an apples to oranges comparison. Yes, Papa John's makes pizza, and yes, Spacca Napoli makes pizza. I like them both for different reasons, but you can't ask me to compare the two. I mean, I guess I like Spacca Napoli better, but it costs 5 times more, and they don't deliver until midnight. It's an apples to oranges comparison. It's not really a useful discussion. But I could compare Papa John's pizza to Domino's and Pizza Hut. Those 3 chains are not all the same. There are differences, but the comparison is among like items. The comparison is at least meaningful. That would be an apples to apples comparison. Here's one more. Should you get a Hyundai or a Toyota. Imagine you're trying to decide between the Hyundai Santa Fe and a Toyota RAV4, both smaller SUVs. Your friend just bought a new RAV4, and your friend is going to let you drive it. But your friend is a little bit of a cheapskate, and he bought the lowest cost model with no options. So imagine you drive it, and it's good, but it's not great. Well, now let's say you go to the Hyundai dealership and they let you test drive the Hyundai Santa Fe. But the car they let you drive has all the options included. Every upgrade imaginable is included on the version you drive. It has the fast engine, heated steering wheel, upgraded sound system, the whole works. And at the end of the test drive, you think, gosh, I really thought the Santa Fe was better. And maybe it is better, but you haven't made an apples to apples comparison. You compared the worst version of the RAV4 with the best version of the Santa Fe. No wonder you liked the Santa Fe better. So now, let's think back to how you heard it in the first part of today's lesson. Governments try to compare prices of the same goods from period to period to measure inflation, the increase in the general level of prices. So let's pretend that a night at a typical Marriott hotel cost $200 in 2021 and $220 in 2022. That sounds like a 10% increase in cost to me. The government might factor this 10% increase into its overall inflation calculations. But let's pretend that sometime between 2021 and 2022, the typical Marriott hotel stopped offering daily housekeeping. And let's pretend that the typical Marriott hotel started adding a 5% sustainability fee to the bill. And let's pretend they canceled the shuttle to the airport, which used to be free. Well, now, when you compare the headline price from 2021 to 2022, are you making an apples to apples comparison? I would argue that you are not. I would argue that the $200 room included an airport shuttle, daily housekeeping, and had no extra fees, whereas the $220 room did not have an airport shuttle, did not have daily housekeeping, and had an extra fee. So I would argue that prices went up by more than 10% since you're not making an apples to apples comparison. To be fair, government economists know this, and they do try to account for the changes in package size, service quality, and bundles. Government economists would know, for example, that the hotel room comparison is apples to oranges. They try to make adjustments in the numbers so that they are making an apples to apples comparison. But I have a feeling that the world's big companies can invent new ways to increase prices faster than economists can track them. Today's song of the week is Alewife by Clairo. This song appears in the HBO Max series called Mayor of Easttown. The song is about someone having a really hard time and a friend supporting her. It fits with the show, which is about a town in the state of Pennsylvania that has really struggled with a lot of issues. Actually, Easttown is near the town in Pennsylvania where I went to college. The landscapes in that town are really pretty, and in many ways, it is a great place to live. But as you can see from the show, there are a lot of challenges to towns like that. JR recommended the show to me, and I like it. I definitely recommend it. Anyway, Alewife by Clairo is the song of the week. By the way, we don't employ any of these secret price-raising tactics at Plain English. We could start charging for JR's song of the week. Maybe like a 10-cent surcharge for listening to every Thursday lesson. It would be worth it for an expertly curated song suggestion every week. We could absolutely charge for that. But we're holding the line. We're not doing that. In fact, Plain English Plus members will never get a price increase. Now, sure, maybe down the line, I'll raise prices. But if you join today, and today it's $19 per month, if you join today, your price will stay the same forever. It's not like Netflix, where they politely email you that they'll be charging your credit card for more next month, and there's nothing you can do with it. Not at all. We don't do that. If you join Plain English Plus, you will always pay the price you join at. So if you're worried about the price going up, don't worry. Just join today. You can always pause it later if you need to, but the price will never go up. PlainEnglish.com/PLUS is where you can go to sign up and lock in today's price forever, which really is a bargain. All right, that's all for today's lesson. We'll be back on Monday with another lesson set just for you. See you then.